Bammo. Oh wow, that's not correct at all. All right, there you go. This is the time to fix this scene. This is the first time I've done this scene live. Hello. Hello, lovely person. How are you today?
I am living the best life that I can.
Nice.
I always joke whenever anybody asks me, they're like, "Oh, how are you?" And I'm like, "I'm living, and I got a beer in my hand, and I can't complain." But that's only in the evenings. I'm not saying that at breakfast. Normally, I switch it with coffee or a beer.
Nice. Happy St.
Yeah.
Patrick's Day.
I did not. Okay, so my ADHD brain, like, I woke up this morning and I was like, I have so much to get done. So I just like started doing all my stuff, and then I had to show one of the like a rental property and all this stuff, and I didn't know until like after 2 o'clock, after I was out for a bit, and then I saw someone wearing green, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's St. Patrick's Day, and then I had to actually like pull out my Apple Maps to confirm because my head was blown. Like I feel like this year, like even COVID time, it's just nothing. It's like a fever dream. Maybe
it really is. Time just kind of like goes by so weirdly now, right?
Yeah, especially since I started streaming right before COVID hit, but I was really like in and out of it, and then I accidentally blocked all of my followers, and then I had to go through and manually unblock.
Oh my god, what happened there?
People. I
Did you use command or root?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, you don't have to.
I don't want to talk about it. No, I mean, like, it's fine. It's just that every time, like, there's a couple of like the OGs, and they'll always hop in and be like, "Good to see you back somewhere close to where you blocked all your followers." And I tried to go through and message individually like 400 people. And at some point, I just lost track of who I had messaged, who I hadn't messaged, who I was friends with on the games that I played. It was just a mess. So I just, I took the L, and then now my brother makes fun of me saying that I got catfished. So I take it. It is what it is.
Oh, jeez. That's wild.
I mean, at least I can laugh about it, though.
Right, that's good. I'm glad you're taking it in stride. It is what it is, right? It's a journey.
It's one of those, I mean... life life is a journey, but I feel like I'm always like, you know how they tell you like live in the moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
I live in the moment so aggressively sometimes that sometimes all I can do is like vex on the past but live in the moment. So it's like I'm actively being like spiteful to my past self to be like, look at what I'm doing, but then
fuck you, past self.
Yeah, but then also
better.
I like make the same mistake, and then I'm like, shit, don't look at that. Don't look at that. Walk
That's
away.
Right.
I'm like, that wasn't a good one. But I think that's part of it. I think it's good to like be able to reflect on like mistakes, like especially like
Absolutely.
I have an awful experience for first time streaming, and it was my first time streaming, one of my first time drinking and streaming, which I only drink beer now because I don't trust wine.
Right.
I drank a bottle of that wine from like Lidl or Aldi. That was like the $3 bottle of wine. And I was on stream and I was like joking about my ex, and my ex gifted me stolen goods. Just like there was so many errors. It was very toxic. And I was talking about that, and we were kind of amicable at that time. And one of the random times he decided to drop in on my stream after I had only been streaming for like 3 months was that night that he heard me venting and talking about in my safe space.
Right.
To which I get a phone call and a voicemail and then blocked, explaining why I'm the worst person ever. And I was like, this is also the person that screamed at me at 5 a.m. because I brought them the wrong flavored chicken biscuit.
I'm gonna be honest with you, fam. Doesn't sound like you lost much.
You know,
like he sounds like an abusive ass.
I love that you picked up on that. Very, yeah, that was a trend for a good while, but I think it was my way of like, it's like I had so much crazy stress and like emotional crap through my childhood, and then my dad actually had a stroke and almost died when I was a freshman in high school, and so you know, he was on life support for almost a month, and then still in the ICU area for at least like a month and a half, then moved to rehab. But through all that time, that's why I stayed home. And like why I didn't do like the true college experience and why I even started streaming was because I stayed to take care of my 93-year-old grandmother, who actually just called me a little bit ago. She offered me cabbage. I might take her up in the offer.
It's very adorable. Cabbage is good.
And then I stayed obviously to take care of my dad, and he was on a feeding tube for a while, so like that kind of stuff. But through all of that, it made me realize though that I think like through relationships, I was still punishing myself.
Oh,
you know?
Yep.
Like
I know that exactly.
I was still trying, like, it's like my and also like.
Do you feel like you deserve punishment?
Yes, felt like I deserved punishment because I couldn't.
I'm sorry, I hate to be an armchair diagnostic psychologist here, but have you gone for diagnostic for borderline? Because that's literally like the biggest fucking trait, or even CPTSD. CPTSD would probably fit better. But like,
actually, which is funny, which is why I got so heated right before we got on to talk.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to your story, and the reason why I hate those other people who are suffering, helping other people suffering, there's nothing wrong with having an open conversation. I love that because
welcome to my stream. Open talk space. Like,
being someone who trauma dumps, and I never realized even what I was doing until I was older. Like, I'm named after my uncle who passed away a month before I was born, which was my mother's only brother. Right. A couple months later, my mom went and changed my brother's names because the only people who were going to be able to carry my mother's family name, carry the name on, were my siblings. And so we all had to I was the only one of my siblings born with my mother's maiden name. Right. So I actually have a hyphenated maiden name. But the entire childhood walking around, I was like, they're like, oh, Stevie, that's a cool name. I'm like, yeah, I'm named after my dead uncle. Deadpan. And in my head, I was like, I don't understand why people are so uncomfortable around me. This is so weird. And I'm still trying to be like positive, and then like they're like, don't do that. And now I'm like, okay, this makes sense.
I mean, good lord, talk about like literally directly passing down generational kind of trauma in a way, right?
And then I mean, honestly, my entire life has been so much trauma that I think when it came time for me to try and even be happy, I was just throwing myself back into these situations, and I wasn't letting myself be happy at all. Because it wasn't even like I couldn't go to college and enjoy college because...
Right.
Samwise Gamgee! That's my dog's name. I named him after Lord of the Rings.
I love your dog's name.
But he's more of a Merry or a Pippin. He is not... He can get on top of... He climbs things. He's like a tree climber. He's a weird dog.
You said you're diagnosed with ADHD? Or you have ADHD?
Yeah. So but I'm in the process, I've been on... See, that's the thing. They say I have ADHD, but I've been on bipolar medications in the past. But they never told me what they were for.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
That's wild. What state are you in?
The Commonwealth of Virginia.
That explains a lot. Hi, kids. Welcome to Mental Health Care is really shit depending on what state in the U.S. you're in. And Virginia is questionable at best.
Oh, God.
Because, like, the fact that they put you on bipolar meds, which is just, like, mood stabilizers probably, for ADHD is very
They had never done any type of, like, questionnaire analysis on me, any one-on-one.
So they never diagnosed you, they just gave you the meds?
Yep. And then
that's probably also fucking due to the fact that you're a woman, or, like, they perceived you as a woman, you know? So they're just give this bitch mood stabilizers and call it a day.
And I think also it's because you don't see me and think social anxiety or someone who has issues with people or situational anxiety, when in reality I've had meltdowns that would impress the most dramatic actress, you know. And
well,
also,
again, if they're not asking those questions and they're just judging purely off of behavior, then they're going to give you stupid medication. It's the same thing of, like, you know, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. The doctors play stupid, you know, diagnostic fucking roulette, and then they give you stupid medication.
It's dice. They have multiple patients, right?
Yeah, they don't.
Not
It basically says they don't give
I'm
a shit.
diminishing what like people think, but
No, it basically says they don't give a shit about you or their patients, and they're just gonna do whatever the fuck they want to because they're just gonna make them money.
You come in there and you seem manic, and so they deem you as that crazy patient. Because
they see you just there and then, and that's it. And they think that's your 24/7.
And I'm when I go into the doctor in order to get myself to get into the building, I do have to kind of like hype myself up, which might, make me like, maybe I'm like masking like a facade of like this manic, more of a larger personality than I
a lot of
normally. But
you're let me normalize this for you a bit, because my partner is ADHD, and masking is something that people with ADHD do a lot of times, and especially in social situations as well.
You don't know when you do it, but then you find
you don't know, and then you figure it out like later, like that really wasn't me.
Or you look at your hands later, and like the Ricky Bobby, like the what do I do with my hands? Like what am I doing? Or like when like you're mid doing something, and then you're just like, oh, I don't know what's happening. Like I was just wearing this as a hat earlier.
I love how this conversation started because you came in really, really fucking hot. I didn't even ask a question. It's great.
Mental health is something that I'm very passionate about.
Me too. I love it. That's why I'm like, yes, keep going.
I'm originally from Missouri, and my dad was a farm boy. My mom's father was a cardiologist, and they always lived in bigger cities around medical colleges and stuff like that. So very two polar sides of the world. However, my mom comes from a complete medical side of the world, wanting to deeper understand medical health. My dad, mental health isn't real.
Oh God.
You don't have this, you don't have that. Like you're not, like I said, I need help. I'm a little broken. And to him
what age were you when that was? Because that's always amazing to me when a kid is like aware enough of themselves to know like something's fucking wrong.
It was like 16 or 17, because it was at least a year after he had his stroke. But at that point, and then I had altercations with honestly, I will preface this now. I want to preface this now by saying I do love my father. My father has severe brain damage and certain things. I understand we're just going to beat each other, like a board. But I will say,
man, I want to make a really off-color joke right now, but I'm not going to do it. I disparage people with brain damage. But like, good Lord.
It's hard.
I mean, again, this is the whole this is the story that we know so many times now, just in our community alone, is the passed down trauma, the generational trauma due to emotionally stunted men and fathers.
Yes, and but the weird part though is I think also my grandfather, his dad was in Nam, fought. So there was a lot that he wasn't a big talker, was very closed. So obviously, he didn't have like that deep, there wasn't like a lot of like hugging, like that kind of stuff. Even my dad and his brother are very colder. My dad though, since his stroke, has very softened and actually started taking CBD, regulating and realizing that he does have severe anxiety. Also,
that's kind of an amazing turnaround, but
it is crazy. And I will say that actually, one of the things I will say, I think his stroke saved him in some ways. He had his stroke because of high blood pressure and because of unmedicated high blood pressure, because the lack of medical assistance in his physical health and how it was affecting his mental health by overstrenuating his physical. And then his brain, he had a brain rupture, he had a brain bleed. And, it's almost like a reset. And, you think, once you get home, everything will be the same. And I think he had that mindset. And then I think everything turned and, he had to go, okay, shit, my daughter's more capable than me. My wife is more capable than me. Everybody is above me and I have to ask for help. And being a man who has been instilled since he was very, very young that you have to take care, you have to do this. He started a canoe rental business when he was 13 in the middle of random Missouri, because that's where I'm from. But, always, resilience, you can't take help. And then all of a sudden you're unable to walk. Your muscle mass is depleted to nothing. You have a feeding tube, for God's sakes, mentally what that does to you. And then also mentally watching someone. And now that is my biggest fear is, you know, I lost, seeing that loss. And that also, I think, heavily attributed to my mental health, because watching someone lose so much and then having to come full circle back around and, you know, have to relearn how to interact with people, how to sit and understand and listen, even if you don't like what someone's saying. It was almost like he had to relearn what it was like to, you know, be
distress tolerance, right?
Yeah,
distress tolerance.
Yes, and but it's like
the person that I was just talking about had no distress tolerance.
He got to be me, though. I felt like it was like my dad got to be as anxious as everything that had finally accumulated to who I was and who I had become, and it was exciting for me to be able to see him finally level with me. But at the same time, he also at one point still had an episode, chased me to my car, was beating on my window and being like, I won't have a daughter who's mentally ill. And I was like, oh my God.
Projection,
and
projection.
I looked at him and I was like, I guess you don't have a daughter then.
Big fucking projection. So like on one hand, yeah, like definitely I would be proud of him and like, you know, very happy that like, you know, he finally started to see you. But again, this is another situation that we've seen so many times, and I'm frankly myself, I'm fucking tired of it. I don't give a shit anymore. Hold on, let me
abuse it too.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. But let me explain like the whole situation that I'm talking about here is that the situation of just like all of a sudden like, okay, because it affected them personally, or they know someone that they actually give a shit about, aka they don't actually give a shit about you, their own fucking blood child here. You know, until it happens to them, they don't want to fucking empathize with it. They don't want to not empathize, but fucking yeah, empathize is the right word. They don't want to empathize with it at all. They don't want to like even think about that as a possibility. They just want to be like, oh, mental health is fake and it's not real. You can't actually be this anxious. And then all of a sudden they experience it themselves. It's like, hey, you know, it turns out that like anxiety is a real thing and like really deeply affected me. And then I'm like, yeah, I know, I've been telling you the whole time because I've been through it. And then they'll just make it more about themselves again, and they'll just be like, yeah, but it really affected me, like you don't understand. No, I literally do understand. I went through 2 years of panic attacks I told you about and you didn't give a shit. Yeah, but like what happened, and like I saw that guy also do the shakes and then I had the shakes, and yeah, I know it happened to me and you fucking refuse to believe me. You still fucking are gaslighting me, so fuck you. Which is why I don't talk to my parents anymore. So
yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I have, you know, just now like growth. So actually it's I live with my mother, but my father works out of state, which is, you know, a very good situation for him. He's, you know, loves what he does. But I will say for me, it also is allowed, like, I now moved back into my childhood home. I've lived here for a while since I've moved back in, but
how is that for you?
It's one of those things that, you know, it requires, like, there is like this weird wall, and I'm not kidding. It's there's this weird wall with being at home that like like, don't get me wrong, like I get up every day, I'm excited to stream, I make my own coffee, I do all my own stuff. This whole floor of the house is my zone, my area. It's my space, but at the same time there's that light, like, I'm gonna tiptoe around. I don't, you know, and it's just, I think that's because it's someone else. Like, I don't know, like, even earlier today, like, I'm watching, like, nobody's here, I'm watching the house for them, you know, and it's just like one of those things where it's like, I still feel like it's like almost like the space imposes an opinion. It's like,
it does,
I can hear their opinion even when they're not around, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't need this right now. Like, it's like I don't even, and it's one of those things where it's like at this point I'm like, I wish,
because the whole space like, is a trigger zone for you.
Oh my God, my favorite thing though is whenever you bring up like triggering things as a kid, like you're like, oh, I have this trauma from being, you know, younger.
Yeah, absolutely.
My mom when I was little, so I'm one of the funny things you gotta know. So my mom is 5'3", 5'4", very tiny. Okay. I'm like 5'6", 5'7", like a little bit taller than her. But when I was a kid, I was a little bit more. So I've had a lot of weird stuff with weight. I've had I've had different eating disorders. I've, you know, sometimes even when you have an eating disorder and then you go to try and fix yourself, you get a different eating disorder.
True. Do you want to come back in May to talk about eating disorders?
I definitely would. You know, honestly, it's one of those things where people don't talk about it, and especially men, which bothers me because I know so many men who don't talk about it, and it's so sad because it's like there is such a pressure for like like they're like, we love the dad, like the whole thing where it's like on TikTok they're like, well, we love the dad bod again, and it's like, then why is there still people bullying and shaming other people for their physical appearance? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I'm like, it's like, because it's one of those things where it's like, you know, look, point, because you're different, and if
people always project their own insecurities onto others.
Exactly.
That's how bullying works.
And even smaller people, like even me, you know, I will say, it's one of those things where it's like, people always get on me and they rag on me and they're like, why do you like flaunt your boobs? Like, why do you do this? Why do you do that? And it's like, I'm like, I'm a woman. For years, You're
allowed to have a body and exist.
Exactly, yes. And that's one of those things where it's like, I can feel happy in the clothes that I wear without your commentary. In the sense where it's like, but it's like, they think that they need to tell me that I don't need to over-sexualize myself. And I'm like, and personally, I'm like,
yourself if you fucking want to. It's your body, your choice.
And like, also, it's like, if I don't see it as sexualizing myself because I'm not like flaunting it or being a certain way, because I'm not like, I think like more flaunting is when you're like trying to like, you're like, you know, I think like you're trying to be a little.
And even if you wanted to flaunt it, you could, because you have that fucking choice.
Exactly. But I think it's funny, men though, certain men. And I think just certain individuals, actually, I'd say men, but I generalize because my friend actually on Warzone earlier today, my friend goes, don't come at all, men. There's some good husbands out there. I'm like, you know what? There is. Earl sitting on the couch, 72 years old, been with Ethel many years. I know, but I'm like, I'm generalizing. When I say these things, I'm obviously talking about like the people who fit, but I'm saying like, it's just
if the shoe fits, and when you say men are trash, people should generally know and realize.
If the shoe fits, strut, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like, they do.
People say men are trash because generally a lot of men are trash. And if you feel personally offended by that, then maybe examine why you feel personally offended by that and cut out the trash men in your life. All right?
Yes, I 100% agree. Hold on 2 seconds. Hey, Z, real quick, I'm doing a mental health interview, but I will be back on to play Warzone in a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to be sitting in lobby, though, so I just want to let you know. Okay, sorry, we're good.
It's okay.
But, yeah, it's just like, it's like one of those things. I don't know, I think, like, I've always, ever since, like, and one of those things where, so, when I first got Instagram, I tried to make,
Thanks for the follow.
I tried to make my Instagram my little circle of good people in my life that I knew supported me. I had an older Instagram when I was in high school that was all these people who wanted to see me fail. And I knew they followed me because they thought I was funny looking. And I knew they followed me because they knew these things about me. And it's just like...
that's not an accurate description of high school, I don't know what is.
And it's like
goddamn.
But it's like, that's the funny thing. And I posted on my Instagram story, which I'm the most active on my Instagram because that was my built upon safe space. And so people are always like, why don't you move to TikTok? Why don't you move to this? Why don't you move to that? But for me, I am comfortable. I'm like, if you want to see me, and you want to come hang out, I will be more than happy to have you. And I love a good conversation, literally anytime. But it's like one of those things where I'm like, you know, I don't need, I got so tired. My brother was like, push on Twitter. And I'm like, I have loved the people who Twitter has showed me, but Twitter has also shown me that there's more people that I am wary of than there's more than less people of the people that I actually like this. Like the fact that I actually like found like your like thread. I don't even remember when I did, but I was like, yep. I saw mental health and I was like, we are zoning in.
Honestly, when it comes to Twitter, I find it hard to find the circles where I feel like I actually fit or belong, because a big majority of Twitter, streamer Twitter in general, is just engagement farming type-ish posts, which obviously get, you know, back to the top of your feeds no matter what. So I'm just like constantly frustrated with it. So I try to very selectively search out specifically people who do mental health, or specifically people that have like cozier spaces. You know, I usually, if you want to talk networking wise, I usually network via just like live Twitch streams. Like someone that came in here and followed me a couple days ago was a Stardew Valley streamer that I just like, because I was like scrolling Stardew Valley streamers, because I love Stardew Valley. It's a very comfy game.
So weird.
And it attracts very comfy people.
I have never played Stardew Valley, but I will.
I've never played COD.
I've lurked in Stardew Valley streams, and it's like one of those things
That's
where
awesome.
like I'll be laying in bed going to sleep, and like that's what I'm watching. But
Yeah,
like
it's
you
a
know,
cozy
it's like,
stream.
and that's why I got so mad when I saw this thing, and it was about like the when you see someone pop into your stream, like call them out right away. I'm like, no, 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 no.
God, I love Bliz's response to that, but I was just like, yeah, don't do that.
Like, you can't do that.
I
Like,
mean,
cause literally that, like me, I'm a perfect example. If you said my name, I would literally be like, fuck, boop, and I would leave. I would leave.
No,
and I can't tell you
lurkers is
why,
never a
because
good
I'm
idea.
clearly confident. I clearly have some confidence, but like,
No, there's a trust factor there.
yeah,
You
like,
shouldn't bother your lurkers.
Yeah.
Never
Let 'em
bother your
be.
fucking lurkers. It's so fucking weird, champ. Don't look at your viewer count either. Like, just enjoy yourself and talk to the people that are there. The people that are there to lurk are there to lurk. Either they want to listen to the conversation, or they just want to enjoy, or they want to support. Whatever. Let them be.
When
Like,
I
do
switched
your
to
thing.
OBS, I actually just started having better streams overall. Obviously, because OBS is better, but
Yeah.
also
That
because like it doesn't show the viewer number up in the corner, and it doesn't like.
Oh, you can click
like,
that off on slobs.
I just
saying.
I don't. But I luckily don't. But it's like one of those things where it's like. I think not fixating on seeing someone.
Right.
Like.
I mean,
like,
if you're fixating on the numbers, if you're fixating on the names, then you're gonna have a bad time. How about fixate on your content?
Do you ever see people who tweet and they like get mad for like? And here's my thing, and
That they don't get the interaction that they expected.
Yes.
And
Or
it's really
they're like,
disgusting. I've unfollowed them and blocked them.
And it's just like one of those things where I'm like, it's almost like you don't want to be a fucking bully. Like,
Yeah.
how old are we?
Sometimes
like,
I get dissuaded. Is
but I
basically
also
how
don't
I feel.
post mile marks. I also like because I'm not gonna lie, like I hit
do your own thing.
300 followers and then I fell back down to 260, 270, and then I was back up. So it's like one of those things where I don't ever feel comfortable posting like marks and like mile marking like when I have achievements because I get uncomfortable because like then people try and fucking meme you and be like unclick, unfollow, follow back, like.
Oh god, follow for followers are the fucking worst.
Oh, graphic designers need to.
GFX. Like, sometimes I'll get a new follower. Just it says notification, new follower. I'm like, oh, who's the new follower? Click GFX, whatever. I'm like, oh. No.
I can't do it. I can't.
Okay, so let me actually 45 minutes and let me actually ask you the titular question.
Yes. Ask me.
How has streaming and content creation affected your mental health?
Negatively and positively. I'm gonna hit you with the both.
It is always both, usually.
I love it, and I love like getting on and like getting to like see who's on and like get to be with like my people. But also, it's like one of those things where like I did what I was supposed to, like my brother is a graphic designer and he's coder, and he kind of coached me and was like, the only person who I could ever see doing this and having fun and really being good at this is you. And so I started doing it, and I did love it, but there was this set expectation, for like meeting all these marks. And so I have all of this designed merch that I never released. I have, because my brother made it like this race to like get there, and I remember when I hit affiliate, like I was so happy, and and it was funny because that's when my family actually was like, oh wow, like look, Stevie's like doing something, and I'm like, honestly, this just made me more depressed. Fuck you guys, like Jesus Christ. Like it's one of those things where, and then after I had the set schedule, I was following, hitting the marks, and I had my set schedule, and then I would sit down at my computer and I would go to play my game, and for some reason I would look at the schedule and I'd be like, okay, 5 minutes till.
It'd bring you so much anxiety, right?
1 minute till, and then I was just like, I'm good, like I don't want to do it, and then I was like, stream canceled, and then or I would have to let my dogs out, and then I'd be like, oh well, I'm 10 minutes late to stream, I'm just gonna cancel the stream, I'm gonna cancel the whole thing. It's not even worth having it, I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times that's happened where I've been 15 or 10 minutes past when I had a scheduled stream and I just canceled it altogether. And so I unpinned my stream schedule, air quote, because I stream when I want. I stream every morning, and then I normally take a lunch break, and then I get my I get my actual work done in the afternoon, and then I come back on like around like 3, 4ish, and then I'll normally play into the evening. I stay on however long I want, but it's the comfort zone. I get back to my space, but with the schedule, I felt like I lost it, and it wasn't there anymore because it was just like this pressure system. And what sucked is it's like I wanted the people to have that schedule so they could see it and be like, okay, I'm gonna come, I'm gonna be there for that time. But at the same time, it's like I felt like they were like looking forward too much, and I felt like no amount of like awesomeness, like no amount of like what I could do in that stream that was upcoming would be good enough for the expectation of what I had set prior. Like, because I guess like maybe I'm like, what if my energy isn't enough today? What if I'm a little bit more depressed than I was, yesterday? And it just became this weight, and I couldn't do it. It wasn't. I literally stopped streaming for like months at a time, and I like recently, literally like a couple days ago, just like recently like picked it back up, and I'm like, okay, this is what I love again. I'm not putting a schedule up. I'm gonna do what I love. I love my coffee COD live streams. I play COD. I cuss way too much. I say curses and phrases that don't even make sense.
Do you want some like genuine stream advice? And I won't charge you for it.
You know I love if it's a free meal or a free advice, I'm all for that.
Just do what you want to do and have fun with it. Because if you're not having fun, why bother? And do what's best for you. What's best for your mental health.
The reason people come is for me, and I feel
that's
like
what it should be.
When I was
that's how you
pushing
build a
myself
community.
To meet the expectation of what Twitter had set for being a Twitch streamer,
yeah,
I was
ridiculous.
falling short already, so it didn't matter to me at that point. I was like, I'm already a failure. Might as well just. It was like one of those things where I was like, I'm already crashing. Might as well roll the car to see what it looks like upside down.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I mean, it also all depends, like, what do you want to do with streaming in general? Like, do you want to go full-time? And if you do, are you prepared to do the things that is required to actually go full-time content creation? And a lot of people started streaming during COVID thinking, like, oh, I'm going to become famous. And, like, some people did get lucky and, they have some support there. But other people, like, started it and then didn't have any kind of future game plan. For myself, I've always started with that future game plan in mind. I've always thought like 10 years down the line, am I going to be able to obtain am I going to be able to upkeep this? So I always think about scalability, which is why we have like the question thing now as well. Like it was something I've been wanting to introduce for a while.
Oh no, yeah, and it really was. It is good because it makes people think twice, before you enter a space, because it's accountability in just in a verbiage that makes you already
accountability here.
and the tone. The tone is set. You're Absolutely. Like, yeah. But
yeah, and I think you're going about it the right way. If the people that are there for you are there for you and not necessarily for the game. Yeah. That's how you build a community genuinely. It's just like people want to come for you and your personality and what you have to offer, whatever that is, whether it's entertainment, whether it's mental health chats, or something else. There's know your why, and you'll never fail.
I think the one thing I think I will struggle with when you say like built for the future. So I'm gonna be honest, I never saw myself getting past the age of 18. I was just I can't even tell you. I genuinely felt like I came out of a fog like less than a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. But
And you said you're how old now?
23.
Yeah, you're not far from 18. Only 4 years out.
It's just it's one of those things where like I look at anything I've done and I'm just like I've done a lot of weird jobs just because I've built and hung gutter. I've worked construction my whole life. I drive Bobcat because my dad. And I worked construction. Actually, after his stroke, even with a limp, him and I were a little construction duo team. I've always loved working for my father. Because I love to work with my hands. I love to just work in general. Building and hanging gutter was fun, but I had to stop doing that because I had a bad knee and going up and down ladders was no good. I was a dog groomer at one point in time, but I had to quit because I went to blow out 2 huskies, and then they moved me to being a cashier in PetSmart instead of a groomer. So, I mean, I've had all kinds of weird jobs and stuff like that, but it's like funny that like once I got to streaming, I felt such a level of just content of just being in a space where I could talk openly and people could just find me and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm having a rough day." And I'm like, "Why?" Or, "Hey, like you seem like you're having fun." And I'm like, "I am, but I'm also kind of a crazy biddy. So like this is your warning, whether you stay or whether you go. You can ask questions and I can ask questions too, but you don't have to answer mine. I will answer yours." Like it's just, I had to I don't know, it's hard. I think like as I'm getting older, and I just like it's one of those things where like as I say, as I'm getting older, I'm not that old, but
I mean, I feel old, and I'm what,
yeah,
28.
yeah, you feel. I think once you get to a certain point, you just feel the weight of the world, and I think after
Yeah.
everything that's happened, uncle, dad, my grandfather, actually, my mother's father passed away of Alzheimer's, and that's why I actually moved to Virginia, was because he was the dean of the Medical College of Virginia, and he had to retire because he got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which you basically lose all recollection and memory, similarly to dementia. Um, it's just between everything, and then also I got diagnosed with a basically chronic brain issues, but chronic migraines basically is what I have. So I'm light sensitive. So I got diagnosed with that my sophomore year.
They
So a
actually
year.
diagnosed that?
Yeah, I had a migraine for over a month. I was put on all these meds. I ended up going up to the Medical College of Virginia and dealing with all that. I had a neuropsychiatrist and a neurosurgeon and all that kind of stuff. They injected dye into my brainstem and tracked it and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, but it's one of those things where, after everything, all the crazy heavy meds for chronic migraines and brainstem stuff, and then all the heavy meds for just mood and stuff like that, I think, you just get to a point where, like, letting yourself be happy becomes the hardest thing possible. And that's
Absolutely.
even if, like, you feel like you can, like, I have such, like, shiny moments, but then, like,
Yeah.
I can have such, like, a split second of just.
I like that phrase though, because that was really deep. Just, it's hard to let yourself be happy sometimes,
Yeah.
because especially if you feel like you deserve punishment of some sort. And this is why I was like armchair psychologist for half a second. I'm like, this is BPD / like PTSD, which like kind of acts the same. CPTSD.
Well, I also like
but
one big thing is like I always downplay the relationship side of things, but I have had horrible, 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 horrible experiences with people of the opposite gender, and I don't judge men for it. It's not like one of those things that I hate men
Holy
for it. But I will
shit.
say it's sad. You know,
Uh, Give me 1 second.
everything okay? If I had a little money, must be funny in a rich man's world. Yeah. The number of times I yell and run away from stream because I think something broke or I think one of my dogs is sumo attacking the other one is very common. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I think something did break. I hope everything's okay.
Hi.
Money, money, always sunny in a rich man world. Dun. Everything okay?
No,
What?
I don't know.
Oh no.
sounded like gunshots. Domestic dispute. I don't know if it was a gun or airsoft.
Yeah, I'm too used to that.
Oh, I called too.
Okay. They said they got several calls, so they're sending someone.
Yeah, I'm sure our whole block probably called because it was the guy that came out of like the house at the end again too. This happened like a few weeks ago that they were like a huge shouting match was happening and one car was just like blocking the street, like the whole street was fucking blocked all the way to the last block.
One time my brother and I shot Roman candles at each other. My neighbors called the cops so fast. He told me not to aim for his face, and I definitely did.
Yeah.
But in my defense, he aimed at my face. Whoa! He aimed at my face first. Okay.
Self-defense. No, but like I'm concerned because this house at the end of the block has been trouble lately with like their arguments. There's always arguments going on over there, I swear. And now it's just like been escalating. So I really hope that wasn't actually gunshots, but I just heard a lot of screaming, a lot of like get inside. Like fuck.
People, so that's the scariest thing is the impulse control. That's the one thing. People don't make other people work or focus on impulse control enough. And that's why domestic violence.
I mean, the thing with gun violence specifically in our city here, a lot of it is just like, you know, it is impulse control, but it's also just kind of like that's the way of thinking of you know this is how to resolve disputes is with violence, and that's not the case. You don't have to resolve a dispute with violence.
My favorite.
People really see that as the only way out.
So this is such like a bad.
I don't know if there's a victim. I don't know what happened.
When I was growing up, like, you know, you say don't solve anything with violence. Like whenever I would like get upset with someone or like get upset with my friend, I'd be like I say upset, but I'm like more like joke upset, or like they did something that they like deliberately knew like would upset me. I'd be like, put your hand out. I'd be like, put your hand out right now, and they'd be like, and I'm like, bad. Mean. That hurt my feelings, like as a joke. And I don't remember. I feel like I got that, like, I feel like I picked it up, like, from watching Downton Abbey with my grandmother. I'm like, bad. Yeah. Like, that's what I think.
There's the police car. Wee woo.
Honestly, though, it's amazing though that you know you have people around in your neighborhood that would call.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. So here's the thing: there's a lot of kids that live here.
Ooh, you don't mess
in
with
this neighborhood. Yeah.
You don't mess with kids. Yeah, no.
There are several mothers and fathers here, and I'm just like they're all like probably immediately like 911.
It reminds me of the documentary "Don't Fuck with Cats."
Both of our next door neighbors
have kids.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, in elementary, middle school, no less as well too.
And also, elementary and middle schoolers also are smart enough to start being like, "What's going on?" You know, and start to notice that stuff.
Yeah.
So the concern also is just
It's just I don't know. It's just fucking wild to me because like I know we live in a fucking city, we live in a fucking society here, but like Albany, it always seemed like all like the bad parts of Albany were like more downtown, but like the fact that like there's people like that are like right there. Concern. I mean, to be fair, we also had the situation we had, so they're all over the place, I guess. Unfortunately.
I mean, not even just gun violence.
Yeah.
Two teenagers beat a homeless, like like how like local areas have like their regular homeless man.
Right.
Like this homeless man was very well known in the area. Everybody knew him. Everybody loved him at the shelter. And I think they never released any statements. I'm pretty sure because they ended up arresting the two boys, and they were in high school, and they beat him to death.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like in between like a gym brutal. And like a restaurant, like not ridiculous. Even 4 miles down the road from my street, like down the road from my house. But it's just like. It's one of those things where it's like it's the senselessness, and I just. Right. But like I said, but also I feel like a lot of violence and domestic violence stems back from. I don't mean to direct my judgment at men, but men getting recognized earlier signs of mental health issues. If they're you know, aggression and anger management and that kind of stuff is very easy to start instilling once you're reaching that age of 16, 17, you know, and that testosterone build. As soon as people address that and realize that, hey, being a guy, yeah, you are going to start having a testosterone boost right around that age. And then after that, you're going to have a crash down. But really figuring out how to maintain your own emotional standing while processing different situations in life is going to become so important. And the fact that people let men go forward in the world and get as far as they do, being husbands to wives and basically having possession of their woman in some states, because you know how in certain states, like, you know, you own, you know what I mean? Like,
well, you know what the interesting
or like
thing,
your wife can't report anything, something like that.
The interesting thing is that oftentimes, men that are committing these violent crimes, they're not necessarily mentally ill. It's just, I mean, I guess we can consider it a type of mental illness. They're just emotionally just fucking stunted. You know, they don't see any other way to process their emotions other than through anger. That's the part of toxic masculinity.
But so shouldn't that though be addressed though? Like and I know, like, for
well, it should be addressed, but no one recognizes it as something to address, because the culture that we've built around toxic masculinity is that it is a good thing to be a toxic male, because toxic males get ahead and anger gets ahead and being a go-getter gets you ahead in the game, you know?
I think though that our society is finally, like, the past 2 years, I think I'm not saying,
I think we're starting to come around slowly but surely.
Shift.
Yeah,
because even
there's a shift.
Even
but
my friends,
there will still be those pockets though of ignorance and people of wanting to stick to their ignorance. Yeah, military is another one as well.
Look at the old military. Like, I have so many people I know that are actively in the Navy. I have, you know, people that I've been with, partners,
I just
Navy, you know?
It's just for like my point as a mental health advocate, I'm always wary to say anything regarding specifically like mental health and people with mental health issues and being violent, because more times than not, people with mental health issues are usually end up being victims of violent crimes and perpetrators.
1,000%. And one of the things I will say is also being someone who, like, you know, when I've had these episodes, you know, you do the whole, like, I shouldn't, like, I have like these, I have severe OCD. I'm like I'm a clean lady. I'm a super clean lady. I like to clean. Ignore this pile of cords. That doesn't count. But it's just like, I'm super clean. My pile of cords is a USB extender with 4 extra ports for USB stuff, and then Beautiful. This is another gaming laptop. But it's one of those things though where, like, I look at it and I'm like, at some point, like, we as people who have suffered from mental health, it is not our job, and nor should it ever be our job, to ever help those with toxic masculinity get to where they need to be. But as a society,
I think if someone's being
as a society though, the people who are realizing this and seeing it as someone who is, like, neurologic, you know, not a neurologically atypical person, you know, they need to also be like, hey, this giant mass group of mentally ill, battered individuals, men and women, doesn't matter, is suffering to this toxic idea of this strong power. Like, you know what I think of when I think of, like, the toxic masculinity? Like, the symbol of just, like, the fist with, like, the beacon around it. You know what I mean? And, like, it's just a strong arm, you know? Because that's what you do with toxic masculinity. You just strong arm someone into thinking how you do.
I'm not sure what fist you're referring to.
You know, like, when, like, I feel like I have this, like, visual in my head that's, like, from actually, it might be from a board game or a video game, but it's just, like, the graphic of, like, a fist.
The only thing that I can think of with a fist is the Black Lives Matter movement stuff.
Yes! Oh my god, why did my brain not associate? Wow, okay, you can tell I'm also probably having a day. But yeah.
Black Lives Matter would not be about toxic masculinity, for the record.
No, but I know, but I'm saying, like, the idea of, like, you know how, like, when you think of, like, a man strong-arming someone, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get the visual you're talking about,
like, though. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to, not...
No.
But, yeah.
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 we've
But
run,
yeah.
we've run our course. I'm sorry.
I know, but it was
So-
lovely talking to you, and thank you so much for having me. It was
Of course.
amazing.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Like, I feel bad making
No.
these only 1 hour, and we had 6 on last time, and this time
I'm
we
just
only
so
have
glad
3.
that we got to. I'm so
don't
glad
know,
that we
this
got to
week-
finally talk
days.
and have this conversation.
Yeah, this was awesome, Steamie. Honestly, I would love to get you on again. I have you written down for May, so I'll reach out sometime in April.
Awesome. Yes, definitely.
And then you'll
do.
have like 3-4 hours to talk. It'll be great.
Thank you so much for having me in your community. I appreciate it so much. I will let you go though. I will hop off.
I appreciate it.
I'm gonna go play Warzone now. Shocker.
Have fun with Warzone. Bye.
Bye.
Come catch Waba live only on Twitch.